All right, who has their speakers up really loud?
Me.
I keep hearing myself.
Well, I might be in a little delay. You guys are speaking like a kung fu movie.
Uh-oh.
Kung Pao.
Oh.
All right.
Oh, okay.
And it is working. All right. We are live.
Ooh.
In living color. Isn't that an old show?
That is an old show. I know it.
All right. All right. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yep.
All right. I think we are ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and start the show. Here we go. Welcome to Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 99. I am Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. And the call-in number is on the screen at the bottom, and it is 1-888-697-0162. This is a show where we talk about all things in the computer repair business. We also entertain your phone calls, play voicemails, and read emails when we receive them. So feel free to give us a call and join in on the fun and give us your questions, tips, tricks, or whatever you have. So let me introduce our co-hosts. I'm joined with Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech Team. How you doing, Chris?
Not bad. Jeff, how are you today?
I am doing excellent. Now that I have a good internet connection and I'm doing a show. And also joining us today is none other than Marvin Bee from mbsystems.net. How you doing, Marvin?
Doing fantastic, gentlemen.
All right. Good to see y'all. So anyways, I think we're going to have we kept saying we're going to have a theme for the show. And the theme for this show is we're going to talk about basically desktop repair. And we're going to give kind of our different ideas. There's a lot of people out there like myself that do a lot of hardware repair. And then there's other people that do a lot of software repair like Chris. And then there's somebody, who's kind of in the middle with Marvin, who's, I'm sure he's still fixing, computers at businesses, but it's probably a lot more maintenance type thing. So basically what we want to do is just kind of talk about, is it feasible to run your computer repair business only on a break fix of hardware, specifically, and I think when he meant desktop repair, it could be desktop repair, laptop repair, those types of things. So, why don't you go ahead and kick it off, Chris, and tell everybody what your thought process was.
Sure. Honestly, my immediate thought on it is that you really can't just focus on hardware repair anymore. It used to happen a lot more where you have desktops coming in for upgrades, repairs, and all of that. But more and more, we're seeing the smartphones and the tablets coming in, where people are focusing on that. There's more of the I can just pick up another Walmart special type of customer, and just if you're not getting into managed services, if you're not getting into software, you're just going to close shop. I'm sure there's exceptions out there. There's people who specialize, but for the most part, if you're just a general hardware repair person, I don't think it's going to last.
All right, well, that's fair enough. What do you think, Marvin?
In a type of scenario where that is your core business, especially if you are doing more residential than business, that is probably going to be the case. You've got to find a way to add more things to your portfolio. I probably don't see that happening for several more years. I'm talking, I'm trying to be reasonable. It could be, anywhere in a 5 to 10 year range. So for me, that's not quite as terrible because, I'm not just starting out. But for somebody just starting out, that's definitely something to think about. Businesses I still see are going to need servers and Not all of them are going to be able to go to the cloud. So even the customers that I do have that have started to adopt tablet technology, they still got to have a desktop to do a big chunk of their work, and a lot of that's going to depend on the software vendors from the business side. I think when those vendors go to the, going to change the ballgame completely.
Well, I think one of the things that Chris was talking about too was, kind of more of a not necessarily just a thin client scenario where basically you're just, you've got these dumb machines that are hooking up to the server, but he was talking about specific types of computers that you can buy nowadays that basically you can, they're so cheap and inexpensive that really you're probably not going to repair them versus just replace it.
Yeah, you can't fix a lot of PCs anymore because of the cost. So if you're just looking at it from a break-fix standpoint, if somebody buys a computer, needs it fixed, unless you're talking about just simply replacing a bigger hard drive or upping some RAM, repair is not going to be anything close to what we've been used to. Yeah, I don't see that as continuing in this form. They're going to be too cheap. People aren't going to want to pay, and it's just going to not be worth our time to try to diagnose problems that we can't, 15 minutes. If it's going to take me 2 hours to try to figure out why, the screen is blue, it's not worth it.
Is that like the blue screen of death or something?
No, you know how it just gets that little bluish haze,
Oh yes. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's even the bigger clients too that are willing to spend that kind of money. Jeff, I told you about this project. One of the biggest projects that I've had over the last 4 years was a large auto manufacturer that I was doing work for. We replaced their desktops with Fit PCs. And I don't know if you've seen these things, but there's literally no moving parts. They're solid-state hard drives. They're fanless, and that's it. There's nothing to break. So unless the solid-state goes, the motherboard goes, you're not going to see repairs on those. So they don't even have to get rid of the desktop for you not to be able to repair the desktop.
Right. Well, in some of those, like I was telling you before, because I work in the automotive industry. Heat is a big factor. So if you have a lot of these machines that are sitting around, how many of us have had and I know they're cheaper, don't get me wrong, a USB flash drive that's gone bad or wonky or, only partially worked. That's only my concern with, and I was just telling these guys before, as soon as we get done with this show today, I'm going to redo my main system. I'm putting in a new hard drive, and I'm still sticking with a spinning drive. Partially because of cost, I'm cheap. But the other part is I'm comfortable with the spinning drive. And I know that, the SSDs are faster and stuff like that. Part of my problem is, even though I have several backup systems, is I'm afraid of losing something. So I probably will move to an SSD, not that far down the road, but for right now, I'm old-fashioned.
And you're the type of customer that's going to keep hardware repair alive. But what we're going to run into it is, people need to, like, it's like stocks, right? You don't put all your money in one stock. You diversify yourself, right? You get another.
I'm sorry, did you say socks or stocks?
Stocks.
Oh, okay.
Don't make fun of my accent again.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask you about the project too, because I'm not sure what a project is, but
All right. Your project. So, moving on from my foreignness. When I've been doing it successfully with my clients, is moving them away from just break fix to
Right.
Let's get some the MSP plan or online backups, or let's do more software. Let's get the remote support in it. Let's start doing all of these things that doesn't involve fixing the hardware on the computer, and see what that does to your income. And it's increasing it. And it's not just increasing it because there's recurring revenue. It's not just increasing it because you can take more jobs in a day. It's increasing it because you're providing more services that more people need. And as that hardware repair decline happens, they're increasing the amount of advertising that they're putting into the alternate services that they're offering, and it's bringing them in more money and keeping their doors open. And that's what we want to do, is keep our doors open. So
Right.
you want to do hardware repair? That's fine. Do some hardware repair. It's a great idea, because you are going to have clients that need it, but you can't base
Right.
an entire business off of it anymore.
I agree. I think this business is surrounded by, you have to basically diversify yourself. You've got to put, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Um, you've got to have different things. So when something maybe, we all go through cycles, right? You go through a cycle where you might get in a bunch of machines that have bad hard drives. Then you go through a cycle where you might get a bunch of machines that have bad power supplies. Whatever. We don't know why the cycle is that way. It just is. But those times when you don't have any hardware repairs, we absolutely do need to do software repairs, virus removals, malware removals, which are still high on the list today, because unless somebody has a managed service that manages all their updates and everything that they do, they're not going to keep clean. I just don't believe it, because I just had a machine that he did nothing wrong on the machine, and that particular machine was so slow after a Skype update, which had nothing to do with that, but there was just weird things in the background that the guy had on his machine that was slowing it down. So that stuff's going to happen, and definitely, yeah, you definitely have to do a little bit of everything. And I think, to your other point of doing tablets and phones, I'm still struggling with that, because I know there's profit in it, and I know I can probably do it if I put my mind to it. It's kind of like laptops. I got comfortable with laptops, and that was fine. But to go to a tablet or a phone and go through that learning curve again, I'm kind of like, and as these things keep coming down in price, how feasible is it going to be to replace a screen?
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
Smartphones, you're always going to get that. You're like, not the too cheap things. Smartphones, you're always going to be able to repair those. But what you need to do is look at the price tag of full price for the smartphone. Anything that's
Right.
$500 and up, people are going to pay to get that screen replaced. Because if their contract's not up, they're not getting a $100 smartphone. They're getting a $600 smartphone.
Right.
So spending $200 to get a new screen put on there, a lot of people aren't going to bat their eyes on it.
Right.
So that's not a big deal. Tablets, it depends. I mean, you'd probably have to focus, because there's Android tablets out there that are super cheap, and they're designed that way,
Right.
so that you can hand them to your kid, and if they throw it off of a bridge, it's not going to really matter. You can get them another one. But iPads, so that's pretty much it. Like the iPads, those people are going to get their screens replaced on, because they're expensive.
Right. That's a good point. Well, maybe that's one of the things that you kind of maybe have a niche around the iPhone or iDevice repair type thing, instead of all the diverse types of tablets and smartphones, in the Android world or Windows Phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Marvin, how many in your businesses, how many machines do you have to repair or take a look at on a regular basis right now?
Well, if we're talking from the break-fix standpoint, not a whole lot.
Okay.
And usually that's because, we get the machines. When they get, we're not fixing them. We're actually replacing them.
Okay.
And that's the difference. I mean, I've actually got like 5 or 6 machines here that I'm actually getting ready to strip so I can take them over to Salvation Army. They're not that bad, these machines put in 2010, 2011. But at the time, they were XP. The customer wants 7 or 8, and they want new hardware. So
Right. Okay.
my fixes, I probably do get about 1 residential break fix a month, but it's usually something where it's either my video card's gone, my hard drive died, and can you just retrieve my data, and which I do.
Okay.
Unless I can't, I just had one where I couldn't retrieve it. But in the break fix scenario that I work with, I don't really do a ton. Died or crashed, or it's time to replace the system. In which case, being able to bring over their data and all their settings and all their desktop backgrounds, that's a big benefit that they like that.
Right. Okay.
But the true break fix, is, at least from my standpoint, probably 80% of my business is business clients. So if that machine doesn't break in the first couple of months, it's usually good, for at least that 3 to 5 year period. And then it's just basic maintenance. It's doing the cleanups. It's doing the little malware infection. Hey, my virus popped up. Should I get it checked? Well, let me just scan it. You know,
It's funny you say that because when you talk about maintenance, I was actually at work and somebody had dropped a computer off here, and it was I didn't realize what type of computer it was, but my son had pulled the side of the computer off and basically had taken pictures and texted them to me. And I'm looking at these things and I'm like going, there were so many spider webs in there. I couldn't believe it. It was so dusty, and I'm like going, because so when I looked at the pictures without knowing what type of machine it was, I go, oh, that's got to be an old XP machine, and they're going to get rid of it. There's no way I'm going to fix that. I come home, it's a Dell XPS, Core i7, whatever, built in 2011, and I'm like, it's got a nice ATI video card, so the first thing I do is blow it out or whatever. But in this particular case, he has a hard drive problem, or I'm sorry, not a hard drive, a power supply problem. Can't figure it out. Again, not to talk bad about anybody, but he takes it into the Geek Squad last time when he was having this problem, and they go, oh, it turns on for us, because that's what he brought it to me for. He said the computer will not turn on, and I'm like going, okay. So of course I get it. First thing I tell him, I said, well, it turned on. He's like, wouldn't you know it? And so he went through and told me the symptoms that he was seeing, and on a lot of your Dells and your HPs and stuff like that, you have a little green light on the power supply. Well, when he was pressing the power button, the little green light would go out and then turn back on. And instantly I'm thinking electricity, there's a short somewhere. Okay, is it in the power supply? Is it in the button, which is just basically a dumb switch, makes a connection or disconnection, that's it. That type of thing. So I'm looking at it, and it needs a cleanup, so I end up doing a cleanup on it. So I'm looking more into this, and it's one of those things where I go, well, we're gonna have to replace the power supply, because that's what the problem is. Replace the power supply, no problem. And but that power supply is going to cost him $80, plus the $89 for me to fix it. Now for that type of system, he probably spent a little bit of decent money on it, and it's not that old, as far as a residential machine, so he was willing to do that. But there's a lot of people, man. If you talk over $100 for a repair, people go, nah, I'll just buy a new one. Really? So, in a lot of times, I believe what those people are really saying is they're going to take that machine home, they're going to put it in the basement, and they're not going to worry about it, and they're probably not going to replace it because they probably got other machines at home that will do what they need it to do.
Oh yeah, tablets, smartphones, they probably have a laptop. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't most hardware repair that you guys do hard drive replacements?
Well, anywhere between.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say hard drive. Yes, probably, especially because I get more laptops than I do desktops.
Right. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm buying the business class Lenovo stuff, but for the most part, any laptop that I've looked at is coming with solid-state hard drives now.
Right.
Right. So if more and more computers are coming out with solid states, the custom desktop builds that I've been doing over the last couple of months have all had solid-state drives in them. I mean, the more we move to solid-state hard drives, the less we're going to have hard drive repairs and replacements. The less we're going to have those jobs too. So if the majority of our hardware fixes are slowly going to start going away, how big of a chunk is that going to take out of your business?
Well, before we do that, I think the verdict is not out 100% on the SSD drives, because I've got one client that they replaced all their computers with solid state drives about 2 years ago. I've already replaced 3 of those machines because the solid state drive has plunked out. Kind of going in and out, and we were able to transfer the data. I did transfer them to spinning drives, and then one we couldn't recover, so we had to do a rebuild. So I think the difference might be we should have less hard drive repairs, but I think the hard drive repairs that we do have, because solid state drives, what I've been telling people is think of it as your USB drive. That goes, it goes.
Right.
So there's going to be less chance of pulling data from that. So, unless they've got a very, very good backup, I'm not moving a lot of my clients to SSD drives yet. Now, I am starting to do the SSHD because the bulk of their data is on the spinning part of that drive, but they do get the benefit of the SSD startup.
Gotcha.
So as fair as that is absolutely fair, because you're right. If a solid state hard drive goes down, it's gone. But it is less likely to go down, and even with my residential clients, everybody should have a backup of some sort. There's no reason not to have a backup. So I'm not just discounting what you said about that, but that data should be backed up somewhere. So that's not really a concern, or at least it shouldn't be.
And let me say this: if you go and listen to My Hard Drive Died with Scott Moulton, episode number 21, he'll explain to you. Little plug for my other show. Anyways, he explains he works on about 30 drives a day, and from talking to him, he basically, I was asking him about different types of drives. He doesn't like SSDs at all. He goes, they fail just as much as a spinning drive, and now he can recover the data. He has the equipment and can do it. But what number one, for a spinning drive, you're not going to believe what manufacturer he told me. He said, if you want a spinning drive, and because I know none of us do this, he said, buy Hitachi. Now Hitachi was bought by Western Digital, okay, but the Hitachi line is still separated from the Western Digital line. He said those are the least failing hard drives that he sees, and so with that, he said if you want to get a robust hard drive, he says get a SAS. He said, don't even worry, but the problem with a SAS is you have to have a SAS controller, which most of your residential stuff's not going to, and even a lot of your workstations for business are not necessarily going to without an add-in card of some sort. So, in the cost of a SAS is like really, really expensive. But he's saying as far as robust keeping data, that type of thing, that's the way to go. So I still think you're going to, anything that's electronic, here's my take on it, anything that's electronic is going to fail at some point or another, some more than others, some less than others. I've seen, just like I've seen every system come through my shop with every different type of antivirus on it, and they've all been affected. I've never had one that's, hey, this antivirus stopped everything. It's not like that. Well, the same, I've had every hard drive come through here, and, I myself have stuck with Western Digital, Seagates a lot of times when I replace those drives. For the price point, for a lot of laptops, I will say this. I could probably buy an SSD for a decent price for the customer for how much space that they actually use on a laptop. But my concern is I know the average person doesn't back up. So I've just given them something in their court that says, I'm giving you a better chance of failing. And I have a hard time with that. I would love them to see the speed, and even out of a couple-year-old laptop, to see that increase of speed and be able to do something with a laptop, like when it was brand new. But my concern is getting the data back. Now, can you get the data back? Absolutely, but it's going to cost you about $800. So,
right. So
I'm not going to be able to get it back. So,
but that's when you have that discussion with them and say, hey, listen, you know what? We got everything here. We've replaced the hard drive. And we were lucky. And no matter how easy it was, and we were lucky that we could get this stuff. Because it takes one extra little jolt, it takes one extra inch on that drop for that needle to have pierced something, and you can't get it. Right? So let's have that conversation. We were lucky this time that we were able to retrieve this information, but you really do need to back up. So here is the backup option that I'm going to recommend. Let's set this up before you go so that it can start running when you get home.
I was reading something in the chat room. My bad. No,
I think
go ahead, Marvin.
That part of the whole thing is, we do have those discussions amongst us. We know that we've got to convince people they've got to do their backups. And I mean, I can't tell you how many USB click-free drives we've sold, how many people we've put up on either Mozy or that other one, the cheap one, Carbonite.
Ow!
But here's the thing. It's amazing how many times we'll go back to them and, they have an issue and we're like, well, let's check everything while we're here, check your backup. Oh, I haven't done it. Well, you've got an email here reminding you, yeah, but I just never got back around to it. I mean,
Right.
the problem is changing the habits of those people, so that, I mean, I had a client that, on Mozy that, they only bought a certain amount of space, so it filled up, but they didn't, that's where you move them to, the other, Carbonite or iDrive or something where, it doesn't worry about the space. Here's your cost. Just do it. Make sure it runs.
Right.
You got to be careful with that too, though, because I mean, you're gonna have things like Crypto Locker that you're gonna get nailed with pretty hard if you get them on one of those. SOS though has released a residential affiliate program, and it costs your customer like $79 or something like that for one computer for unlimited a year. And they have unlimited revisions. So it's more the quality than the quantity that I'm worried about, and they give both. But at the same time, I don't try to change my clients' habits because I could probably have an easier time convincing a brick wall that's made of sand. But what I would prefer to do is set up an automatic backup so that it's backed up.
Right.
And that's where your cloud backup systems come in. That's where because if I try to tell a customer, and all you do is plug in this hard drive every night before you go to bed and unplug it in the morning, they're either going to not plug it in or they're going to leave it plugged in, both of which are not going to help them in an event of a disaster.
Exactly. You're right. No, that's exactly right. I think there's several different services. I think CrashPlan also has unlimited revisions, and that's important when it comes to things like Crypto Locker and stuff like that. You've got to be able to, and I think you can even with their service, you can like take snapshots, at a certain point, so that so that definitely it freezes that portion of it. So probably stuff you're not changing all the time or whatever, and so that you can get back to it if you absolutely need to. But yeah, you have to have a backup plan that somebody doesn't have to think about, because as busy as I am, I wouldn't think about backing up my stuff, and I use Carbonite because when I first started my business, I was an affiliate for them, and it's worked fine. I've been able to get to my files and stuff like that. Not that I've never needed them for disaster recovery, but I just liked it because it was backing everything up automatically. Now, everything I had to do here and back it up to an external drive or another internal drive or whatever, I've had to use like SyncBack, that little program to set that stuff up. But I'm telling you, I went and checked that program, and all of a sudden, for some reason my server lost connection and it stopped backing stuff up. And if I didn't go in and check that, I would have never known.
See, and this is where the managed backup starts coming in, because what I've Jeff, for those of you who don't know, I don't have anything to do with the SOS affiliate program. That's directly through them, but I am an SOS distributor. So I have some of my clients are resellers of SOS. They buy through me for a discount, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and what I've found is that the majority of clients need no more than 10 gigs of actual space to back up their pictures, documents, and important stuff, right? They don't really need to back up 10 gigs.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Because you don't need to back up your it's because you don't need to back up your music, because you can get that back from iTunes or wherever else you downloaded it from. Let's be honest, nobody's ripping CDs anymore. Okay, so
I do.
Okay, we keep having discussions about things that you do that the majority of the population has stopped a long time ago.
I gotcha. I'm behind the times. I'm sorry.
So it's true, but a lot of people need around 5 gigs. Most people need 10. Right? So people are willing, we found, to spend around the $100 a year mark.
Okay.
for 10 gigs worth of cloud storage that will automatically back up with unlimited revisions. The revisions don't count towards space.
Okay.
And it's fully monitored. An email is sent every time the backup happens, and if the backup doesn't happen for a couple of days, then the email alert goes to your IT provider, who's going to call you and say, hey, your computer's not backing up. What's going on? So for all of our clients, we're monitoring that with them. They're monitoring it as well. And we'll get somebody who's like, oh, you haven't backed up in 3 days. So then they get an email. Hey, your computer hasn't backed up in 3 days. Is everything okay?
Right, right. That's
right.
good.
Those clients, those ones that you're talking about right there, where it's like, oh, my carbonite hasn't run in days, and if I hadn't checked it, I never would have known. Well, those are the customers that you need to have set up on a monitored system.
Right, right, right. I've never had a problem with carbonite, but it's just when my own systems I've set up for internal backing up have failed on me.
Okay,
So.
I misunderstood what you were saying, but I mean, same deal though. If your carbonite wasn't working, would you have known if you hadn't checked it?
Well, it kind of tells me it's either on or off. So for me,
that's
it's
because you look at it.
Right.
Well, that's true.
Your customers aren't going to look at it.
Right, and I
if
think
mine shuts off, it puts a big pop-up up that says it's not running or whatever.
If the service is working properly, it will.
Right. True. Now, I'm going to tell you from my standpoint, just from the machines that I work on, and these are mostly, again, laptops, I'm usually in the 20 to 40 gig range, and that has nothing to do with music all the time. Usually the music is usually the smallest portion. I don't know why, because I don't really, I don't peruse through their data or anything like that to see what they have, but that's what I'm backing up. Now, is all that relevant? Is all that relevant? Do they need all that stuff backed up? That I'm not sure, because again, I don't sit there and micromanage it to figure it out. So, but yeah, if what you're saying is true, then 10 gigs, and I agree. It goes back to the managed service of, and really this is something we've been talking about for a while. This stuff needs to be monitored by an outside third party.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, you really don't know. You're right. I'm the guy, because it's my data. I'm going to check and make sure that everything's working right. I'm going to log into Carbonite and make sure my data is there. Now, do I look through all of it? Absolutely not. So now do I check? Now do I look through my internal stuff? Yes, absolutely. But I have to manually do that. To make sure did everything move over from this folder to this folder?
Yeah. And that's something that you do, and that's wonderful. Most people don't.
I know.
And then if it comes down to it, where it's like, oh, my laptop just caught fire, the cat peed on it, or I don't know, whatever happens, and that hard drive's done. Well, I'm not going to send it out for $600 recovery because it was supposed to be backed up. And Jeff, you set up that backup on my computer, so why didn't it work? Why am I now sending this hard drive out for a recovery if you set up a backup on my computer? And it doesn't matter how many times you tell them, hey, listen, I just did the install. I have nothing to do with it after that.
Right.
None of that matters, mostly, because most customers are going to try to turn around and blame you for it.
Right.
Right. So that's where it's like, hey, and I've told people, like, try to offer multiple options. Hey, you can take this and it has unlimited space, but nobody's going to watch that for you, so you got to keep up with it. Or for an extra little bit, and your space is limited, we'll monitor it. And now we're going back to the original. There's a reason why we talk about these things. Going back to the original conversation, you can't just stick with the hardware repair. You got to look at other services like this. Start offering the backup. Start selling antivirus or a managed plan or unlimited virus, or get into those types of services. Because that is where the majority of the money is starting to go into for a lot of the small guys. There's going to be bigger stores or people who have a lot of established customers that are going to keep those customers, and that's great. But if you're trying to drum up new business, a lot of the new business is more going in towards the services rather than the break fix.
Right.
So make more money. Start banking it now. Because if we start losing these repairs, if we start running out of these jobs, you're going to want something to move into.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, you definitely have to. Again, it's about diversifying. And you definitely have to have. You've got to constantly be increasing in your business as you're growing, and if you want to continue to do this, you've got to change with the times.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, you got to look at all these different options. And for an example, when somebody comes in and they say, "How can I stop from getting infected again?" One of my responses is always, "You can't."
Yep.
I said, we can put an antivirus on there, anti-malware, whatever. I
Yep.
said it's going to slow it down, but your human nature is you're going to still click on something. You're going to get infected with malware, viruses,
Yep.
yada, yada. And so I said the only way we can do that is by offering a managed service that basically monitors all that stuff to make sure that it's operating correctly on a daily basis. And, and some people are like, well, that's too much money. Okay, well, then that's not the type of person that I need for that type of service. I could offer a lesser service, but in my opinion, it's doing a disservice because it's no better than just selling them an antivirus.
Well, exactly, and you're right, and it's the same conversation that I have with a lot of people who are like, oh, that's too expensive. How can I just not get a virus again? Well, I mean, you can not be on the internet.
Right.
Call your internet service provider, cancel your service, and take some tape and put it over all your USB drive ports so that you don't accidentally put in a USB stick.
Right.
The only way you're going to keep yourself from getting a virus on your computer is to never introduce new files into your system ever again.
Absolutely. Well, and like I said, I've told people this before, that a lot of your viruses and malware is still the majority of them are really coming from emails, which people, for whatever reason, still click on.
Yeah.
So, you can get drive-bys and stuff like that, but in my opinion, a lot of the drive-bys are usually stopped. If you have even a remotely decent updated antivirus on it. I don't know a lot that are getting around that. I think most of the infections are really coming from people clicking on something. And, you're not ever going to stop that, unfortunately. You can tell them time and time, don't click on that. Don't try to close that window down. It doesn't matter. They're still going to click it and,
Don't click on that X. That window, that whole window is a giant I accept button.
Yep.
Stop clicking on the X. It's not doing you any good.
Absolutely. Marvin, you back with us?
Comcast.
No. Comcast is fantastic.
Show note, we're going to have to bleep that out. We can't have that on there.
Sorry, Comcast, if you're a sponsor.
Comcastic.
You know what? I'll tell you what. If Comcast will sponsor this show, we will make sure we censor things like that. No problem.
Absolutely.
But there's going to be a lot of money being exchanged for that.
Yeah, exactly. No.
All right. I had to
It'll never happen.
I had to reset my fantasy stat tracker too. So. My NFL red zone went out, so I can't see the action right now.
What?
Oh man. What is going on?
Oh, good. It's all about computers. That's what's important, right?
That's it. All about computers and routers and modems, and it's funny. I had earlier today. I had modem problems where my modem kept resetting on its own. It's like somebody kept pressing a button. I was watching it blink. Turn off. Turn on. I'm like going, what's going on? And then my 4G signal on my phone, because I had to shut my Wi-Fi off, obviously, on my phone, so I could get some sort of signal to get online. And the 4G in this area, I don't know if it's the weather or what, but 4G sucked. I'm like going, I'm sitting there waiting on pages. I'm like, come on. So I think it's been one of those days.
It's something, because my phone did that this morning. I woke up and my mail kept re-downloading.
Oh.
Which was horrible, because I've got alerts set up, and my GFI Max kept dinging me. And I'm like, I already saw that alert.
Oh.
How many times do I got to see?
Wow. Okay, so. Conspiracy theory. No, I'm just
what I don't like is when you start getting the text messages over and over and over because your client forgot to tell you that their ISP is coming out to do some maintenance.
Oh no!
Right.
You get like 15 text messages that says, "Oh, hey, we got some data from this server that you haven't heard from in a while."
Yep.
Wow. That's something. So I think some of the things we're talking about today is basically, get different services in your business, and I think we've kind of talked about whose phone is that?
That's nobody's phone.
It's the invisible phone. But get those products or get products and services in your business that you can, when something's slow, you've got something else to, kind of pick up the pace on that. And, I think the biggest thing is if you're going to grow your business, keep trying new things, because a lot of us will get stuck in doing what we know or what we've done for such a long time that we're not willing to break out of that mold and say, all right, let me do something a little bit different. Let me see if I can, make this part of the, hey, you know what? If you try something and you fail, it's okay. Pick yourself up and go try something else. Because I would say for the most part, as a computer repair business owner, you're going to fail a lot. And I think if you build your business up to a point where you go, oh, I don't ever want to fail, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the biggest learning experience you're ever going to have in any business, not just in ours, is the failures that you get while you're going through. And I mean, there are, a few of my clients are long, like they've been around for a long time, like, coming on 10 years. And it's the first conversation that we have is, okay, listen, we're going to go through all of this, and, we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to figure it all out because every business is different. And we're going and the smart ones are the ones to say, I fail every day and I learn from it.
Right.
Because you do. You make at least one mistake a day. You can't get around that. It's if you learn from that mistake is when you're going to continue on.
I don't know if I make one mistake a day.
You make one mistake a day, Jeff. Usually it winds up involving an email to me. No.
Or something I said to my wife.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. But we're going to have to – and married men make 2 mistakes a day.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, is Marvin still there? Or did we lose him again?
I think we lost him again.
He's frozen. Comcastic. Gotta love Comcast.
It's wonderful.
Somebody said Zoid was saying that SpinRite works on solid-state drives. I didn't realize that. I never knew that.
Nope, neither did I.
Very interesting. I have personally never used SpinRite. I keep meaning to buy it and just never have. I'm just replacing drives when somebody has a drive that comes in or whatever. So, so what else? So, in talking about business and different things you need to do, we've had a couple of Podnutz dailies over the last couple of weeks that have talked about cell phone repair, tablet repair, and some good sources where to get parts for that stuff and how to do it, and kind of maybe getting some broken items and trying to fix those yourself. It seems like the iPhones are very simple in the last 2 generations versus the iPads are still stuck down with glue, and you basically have to heat it up and unglue it, and to get that cracked screen off and get down in there.
Well, what's going to be interesting is to find out how the iPhone 6 repairs go for screen replacements, because as it stands right now, consumers in general use are bending the phone to the point where it stays bent. So that'll be an interesting development. I'm looking forward to see how I have a few clients that specialize in iPhone repairs. I'm looking forward to see how they manage that.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about the bent phones, other than there are, if you've listened to Podnutz Daily with Max Monty, he basically has tools that will actually bend the corners. And there's a different tool made for each part of the frame, the basic frame of the iPhone, and it will bend it to exactly the way it needs to be. As far as screen replacements, he said is just as simple as the iPhone 5. You basically can take the screen off from the front. The iPhone 4 and 4S, you had to basically pull the whole phone apart to get to the screen. So everything had to come out, then the screen comes out. So he says the iPhone 6 will be just as simple as the iPhone 5. But I'm also hearing that sometimes when they're talking about the bending of the phone, that basically it's not a big amount of people. And, for crying out loud, people, skinny jeans do not look that good on you. Here's a picture for you.
And this has been a life lesson from Jeff. Stop wearing skinny jeans. And
don't wear skinny jeans. Yeah. Hey, that'll be the title of the show. No more skinny jeans.
Oh, and they'll be like, man, why are they talking about skinny jeans? I have to. Oh, it's just about desktop repair.
uh,
Why I'm bothering with this show.
so there, it's funny. One of the things that I did learn the other day when I went to install somebody brought in a computer system that basically needed to, they had put together and had never put a computer together before, which was fine. They made a couple mistakes when putting it together, like not clamping the heatsink down. Um,
What?
so they didn't clamp the heatsink down to the processor. So there was a little error in between there.
And
They
I
did get the
accidentally put a piece of paper in there, and it was no good.
yeah. The other thing was they had, on the back plate on that particular computer, they had the clips that are supposed to put some pressure to hold the computer, the motherboard down, basically were sticking in the USB ports. So I've had that happen before. Basically, because of that, what'll happen is it'll short the system out, and it doesn't do it right away. So the system will turn on, and it'll run for a second or maybe a minute or so, and then it'll short out or heat up or whatever, and it shuts it down. So after replacing all of that, I was able to. I talked to the customer. I said, okay. I said, do you have the operating system? And he had the disk for the motherboard. He didn't have an operating system. So really nice system though. Ended up getting an operating system. But one of the things I learned to do was I was a little concerned about Windows 8 and how we're going to do repairs on a dead drive that has that has recovery. And Marvin's back.
Yay!
Hey, I've resorted to my phone.
You look
Oh
good.
no, you
All
can't
right.
do that. That's my thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
Like
your
you have
thing
a
is
thing.
on the phone driving in the car. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
So, anyways, with replacing Windows 8, we were concerned with because of the Windows recovery key is basically in the BIOS. There's no stickers on these machines anymore. And so there's a couple different ways to get it past the point where you can actually install the system and then put a product key in afterwards. And some people, if there's been generic product keys out there that people have used just to get it installed on the system, you can't activate it with that product key, but it would let it install. So what I did on a whim the other day was I took a Windows 8 ISO, put it on a USB stick. Once it was on a USB stick, what I did was I took I made a EI.config file, basically with the type of configuration. It was a core retail version, whatever, or core OEM. And basically what I did was I was able to put that in the sources file folder, and I was able to install Windows 8 no problem. When they had bought a Windows 8 OEM disk, once the disk came in, I basically took the OEM disk, put the product key in there, and it activated. Done. And there you go. So I was glad to see that because I was definitely a little concerned about how I was going to do that. When a hard drive dies, on a Dell, HP, or whatever.
Well, what I've done in the past, and actually I did this a week ago because my daughter's laptop hard drive died, and of course my USB recovery stick that I created was used to load music on by somebody who shouldn't have been touching it. So we had absolutely no, it was not, as a matter of fact. And imagine my surprise when there's no bootable drive. Anyway, so whatever. I called up the manufacturer of the laptop and basically informed them that this is Chris calling from Carruthers Computers. I am a computer repair company in Barrie, Ontario, and I have a laptop here, and the user has lost their USB stick. I was wondering if I could get the recovery media for this laptop from you, and their response was, absolutely, Mr. Carruthers, what address should we send it to?
Nice.
If you are a computer repair technician, you have a very good chance of getting free discs.
Now, what company was that with? I'm sorry.
That was Acer.
Acer, nice.
I've also done it with HP, Dell, and Lenovo.
Okay, great. That's good to know.
HP does that all the time.
Yep.
HP will? Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. What's
Very
nice
good.
about that is that when you're done, your customer now has a nice full set of recovery media for their computer, so that if anything like that happens again, they've got it. Because we all know that the reason why they don't have it is because they didn't make it.
Okay, gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, Zoid's saying that he asked if anybody's previewed Windows 10 yet, and I told him I couldn't get it into a VM. I tried to use VirtualBox and it wouldn't work for some reason. It said the processor was wrong. So he said he got it working in VMware Player. I have not yet. What I plan on doing is as soon as I get done redoing my computer, I have a drive dock on the top of my computer case that's actually part of the computer case, and you can boot from that drive. You just got to set it up in the BIOS. Right now I have that thing turned off, but what I'm going to do is I've got a little 160 gig Western Digital blue drive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to install that, boot from that drive, run the Windows 10 installer on that, and then so I'll have basically a dual boot system. Basically, when I remove the drive, it'll go back to my regular system. When I plug in the drive, it'll be on Windows 10. So I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works.
All I'm saying, 100 gig solid state hard drive would be a great use for that toaster whenever you want to decide to test it. I'm just saying.
100 gig what?
100 gig solid state hard drive. Why not? If you're going to test out Windows 10, you may as well do it right.
Listen.
And you just pop it in the toaster, and it's done.
Listen. There is a reason that I did not get a solid state drive, besides cost. Because I literally need, well, let me put it this way. I have 75 gigs worth of videos.
Yes.
These are just family videos.
Right. For your mechanical drive.
Yes.
Yes.
35 gigs of pictures.
Right.
153 gigs of miscellaneous files.
Right.
Documents, stuff like that. Okay. And 300 gigs of programs loaded.
Sure.
So
that's your second drive.
Right. I'm waiting for the reason why this can't work with you having your operating system on a solid state drive.
I don't want to. Here's what here's what happens in the past, and maybe it's changed a little bit now. When I have went and tried to do two drives, whether I had, back when maybe a couple 500 gig drives, I would put or maybe a 250 gig hard drive, I put the operating system on that. And then I had a 500 gig hard drive that I would put all my user data on. I'd load all my games and stuff in it. I ran into a problem with the way that programs load sometimes, and a lot of your programs will like to put their backup files inside my documents. Well, when my documents is not pointed to the C drive, it can wreak havoc on the system. So to get around that, that's why I always went to one drive, and now I'm able to keep separate data files, not operating files, but separate data files, pictures, videos, and stuff like that on a separate drive. But my main stuff that I do, when I plug in a camera or something like that, I want it to go to the spot where it needs to go. I don't want to manage everything to make sure it's going where it needs to go, and it might be simpler nowadays. I don't know. I could be totally off.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, with Windows 98, that was a huge problem. But it's
smart aleck.
But no, look, the way that
you're
I'm
probably right though. Okay, that's just full disclosure. You're probably right.
Let's just move on. No, what I have is I have a 250 gig solid state drive as my C drive, and then I have my 1 terabyte D drive. That is my setup, and I have had zero problems with it.
Where do you load your games?
I have one game on the C drive because, right, but the rest of them are on D.
And it works fine?
I've never had a problem.
Okay.
See, Jeff, there's this thing called a custom installation. When you install your programs, you don't have to let it go to the C drive.
Oh, I know.
And then for the lazy man, you can actually set Steam up to be on D, and Steam will do everything on D drive.
Okay, so again, you're right. I was probably thinking back into Windows 98 days. So I'm probably a little off on that.
It's okay. It's okay. I still remember Windows 98, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but you were like 10.
Yeah. Come on. There's a big difference. Your Windows 98 is much different than ours.
You're right. It was Windows 98 Second Edition. I apologize completely. I retract my statement.
Oh my gosh. All right. Eventually I might have to try that. Actually, Best Buy had a 250 gig 840 Evo on sale for like 129.
Take it. That is a good deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was looking for a deal for like, I was like, oh, let me go 500. Well, okay, but again,
he's going to find another excuse.
No, I'm concerned like with a.
Stop trying to overthink this.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. You're right.
Just get yourself a drive, install the OS. That's it.
Yep.
Put everything else on your mechanical drive, and you'll have the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I will give that a shot.
Although, admittedly, my second drive is an SSHD, but that's not the point here. The point is...
Well, since we're throwing out acronyms...
Oh, here...
Oh.
Here it comes. Guys, stay on point. Why are you changing the subject away from the show's...
I'm sorry. What are we talking about? Computer repair?
I'm pretty sure we were talking about repairing computers.
I digress.
So listen. So now that I'm off the Comcast,
okay,
just in case my AT&T LTE decides to fail as well.
You know what? Here's what's sad, Marvin. You actually look better and sound well. You don't sound better, but you look better than you were on Comcast.
Yeah, I got to get the lighting situated in this room.
Oh my gosh! I mean, your video is smoother than it was on. That's terrible.
It is.
Comcast is not Comcastic. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that is true.
Brought to you by Verizon.
Yeah, I bet you'll be making a phone call here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Cease and desist letter. Oh man. So anyway, where were we going with this? So basically, diversify your business. Make sure that you have different things that you can learn. I think in this business, one of the things that most people can keep doing is constantly learning. I really feel if you're not learning, you're just going backwards, and you really need to learn to, do your business.
Yeah.
Because I don't have everything figured out. Marvin, do you have everything figured out?
Of course not.
Chris, we know you don't. You're too young. Anyways.
Are you kidding me? No, you're right. I haven't had anything figured out, but the one thing that I have figured out that I have to keep reminding people is that you do not need to have a retail shop to sell things. You do not have to have a retail shop to sell antivirus. You do not have to have a retail shop to sell backup. What you need to have is the ability to learn how to sell, which is a huge problem for a lot of technicians, and you need to be willing to try. Those are the only two things that you need, and you'll be fine.
Well, I do want to reiterate that as well, because I have had this business now 17 years, and my original dream was to actually have a store. Never happened, and at this point never will. And I will reiterate the fact that I have seen a lot of shops come and go, including, I mentioned you guys earlier before the show, where I've seen in the last 2 days 2 storefronts that are now empty from people trying to do PC repair. Not that there's not enough to do in this area, because I'm in Fort Lauderdale. There's a ton of work here and available. And there are a lot of people that truly want to take their computer to a shop. I don't, it's just, some markets are like that. Some places you're going to have people that are like that. 90% of my work, if it's not at a business, it's remote. But, it's all about, the diversifying, the marketing, finding out what is going to work in your area. And if you've got a shop and you're standing outside holding up a sign that says $49 PC repair, and that's the way you're getting business, that model is probably not going to be working for much longer.
No.
you know, the what I was going to say earlier, and before my system started going berserk, we were talking about the backups in terms of whether people are going to monitor their own backups and stuff like that. And I think that's where I think you were starting to say, Chris, that the managed services was something to really get these people to. Did we just lose Jeff?
How did we lose Jeff? He's hosting this.
So it's not just Comcast.
No. Uh-oh. Keep talking. I'm gonna try to get him back here.
Okay. But I was going to say that I think, you know, those managed services, whether it's a true MSP style or, you know, something that you can set up. I do a hybrid. I don't really do a true managed services. I do have some GI Max stuff. I do have Log Me In Central, where I've got a bunch of clients where I can at least log into a site and see them, you know, whether they're active or not, whether their AVG is up to date or antivirus. You know, their computers are updated and stuff like that. So it's not true managed services because they're not set up on a proactive schedule. But that's, you know, some monthly income that I don't have to work for. Plus, I am at least watching their stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know that this isn't, just throwing this out there, this isn't being recorded anymore. We're still in the live stream, but Jeff is the recording.
Yeah.
So pretty much what we're talking about right now is unfortunately not going to be in the show later.
Well, that's too bad because I got some nuggets coming up.
I know, I hear you, man. I'm in the same boat. But I mean, that said, that is exactly what I've been pitching to my clients, and it's been very successful over the last number of months, where, you know, we are pitching the proactive managed service plans to residential clients, and they are taking it. Business clients aren't even questioning. Because, you know, where we're setting them up with is your updates are going to be done. Java Flash, you know, over 100 different programs. We're using 99 Pro. Those are all going to be done on a daily basis. We're going to have, you know, your computer being monitored for viruses and spyware and all of that. You're going to get unlimited virus removals in case somehow it slips through the cracks. And on top of all of that, we're going to manage your backup for you so that if your backup doesn't go through or fails or anything like that, we get an email notification telling us needs to be fixed.
Right.
These clients are as close to worry-free as they can possibly be on their computers.
Well, it's even beyond that, because now they know that not only do they not have to worry about it, you're going to be the one to take care of it for them.
Absolutely. Along with that comes the liability. So I mean, we need to be honest with ourselves in business. It does pose some liability there, where it means that you need to be on top of it, right? If a backup is failing, you can't just not contact the client. If the client doesn't return your phone calls, hey, Jeff's back. If the client doesn't return your phone calls or your emails or anything like that, are we back on the recording?
I never shut it off, so it should still be recording. Hopefully
you might have to delete what we said about you then.
Oh,
shoot.
No. Well, you know, here I am complaining about your Comcast, and guess what happened?
Yeah, we weren't sure.
Now.
We weren't sure if we were going to be on the recording anymore. When you dropped off there, I figured that you couldn't hear us anymore.
No, I couldn't hear you on the recording, so it'll be on the YouTube video. Whatever you guys were talking about, we'll leave it just like that. But, anyways, where were we going?
Well, we were going to talk about what we needed to do about Jeff, but we're going to go and talk about instead as the backup. You know, if you're at the point where you're doing the managed, you're basically, your liability is, hey, this backup isn't happening. The backup's still there. All the stuff that was backed up there was there before. But, okay, well, this backup hasn't happened in 3 days, so I'm going to contact the client. Now, I'm going to continue trying to contact the client. If the client never gets back to me, I can't do anything about that. So what you need to make sure that you're going to do is, if you're going to get into a business like that, you're going to be on top of the alerts. And as long as you're on top of the alerts, you don't really have a liability on making sure that that backup is working.
Right. You know, there was one of the forums had a situation like that where somebody was asking for advice because he was doing their managed backup, and the customer, I forget exactly what happened, but they were still paying for the service. It was, I guess, on an automatic credit card, but he could not get in touch with the customer. And the backup apparently had stopped because their the computer had either gone offline or shut down or something. And so he was worried because they were still paying for the backup service, even though it wasn't backing up. And he was afraid that because he could not get in touch with them, what he should do. And I remember there were a lot of different responses, and one of the things was, he still needed to keep that backup set that he had.
Yep.
In case, because of liability. So, we told him, don't stop the backup service, and until you get contacted, you still have to do what you said you would do. That is, maintain their backup so you keep their account active, so that you can keep their backup live, so that if for some reason they come to you 6 months later and they need it, you still have it.
Yeah, and it depends on what the contract says, too. I agree with you 100%. It also depends on what the contract says.
Right.
And if there isn't a contract, that's something that needs to be thought about. Not specifically something signed, but like the terms and conditions that they've agreed to. Right. So a web form or something that says, you have agreed to pay this much money a year for this backup service, and we are agreeing to provide you with this backup service and to monitor it for you, and we are going to contact you if the backup service stops working. They still paid, you're still providing the backup, and you still tried to contact them.
Right.
And you're continuing to try to contact them because you should be continuing to contact them. You are following your end of the agreement, they follow their end of the agreement, therefore the agreement is not terminated. So yes, he has to keep the backup. He's also going to keep the money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
So, yeah.
I'm sure that there's going to be people out there that will disagree with me. I'm sure there's going to be at least one lawyer that's going to try to find a way to, talk around that, but that's the importance of having agreement forms. That's the important of having the important part of having everything documented, so that the customer is expected to have there's a reasonable expectation of the customer understanding what their liabilities are in this agreement, and theirs is to pay and respond.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jeff, what we were also talking about was the fact of, dealing with the future of break-fix, and trying to make sure that you moved into other areas, and we started with the managed services, starting to add some of those things to the portfolio. I'm kind of doing a hybrid of all of that. I know that, Chris, you are full-fledged into the managed services. We're moving there. We'll probably get about 50% of our customers moved over at the start of next year, with either GFI or one of the providers. But Jeff, you had mentioned talking about adding other repair options for tablets and smartphones and all of that. I really think that people are going to have to pay attention to the trends out there, because I know here in Fort Lauderdale we've had a ton of these little break-fix smartphone companies start up, with the U-Break, iFix, or whatever their name. I mean, there is a ton of them around here, and I know that we won't get into that. It's not a market that I think that we probably missed the boat in that. I never really got into the smartphone tablet repair, so I don't want to have to fight to catch up with a lot of those places. But for the people that are doing that now, obviously that's going to be here. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that people can do, though, so if you don't want to get involved in something specific in the industry, then what I would do is I would find somebody in the area and, just have a friendly conversation with them. Hey, I'm going to get calls every once in a while. People ask, hey, do you fix phones, whatever, and I'm going to point them to your direction. And if you can either do it as a pro bono type thing, or even come up with an agreement. Hey, if I send you a customer, go ahead and give me, a percentage, or vice versa. They're going to send you customers for things that they don't do.
Yeah, and you'd be amazed how quickly a 5 or 10% agreement would wind up adding up to when you get enough referrals going in on something like that. On top of that too, you don't have to get into everything. I know we're talking about a whole bunch of tablets and phones and managed service plans and all of that. Listen, you don't have to get into everything, and you shouldn't get into everything. Your core business shouldn't be computers and everything. You should never have everything because you're never going to be able to keep up with it. What you need to have is, you know, a diverse group of services that you want to offer, and then make that your core business and keep with your core business. You're never going to perfect that. You're never going to get everything. So make sure that you have enough things to keep you busy and to keep the money flowing. And honestly, I'm always going to tell people, if you're going to get into anything, get into something recurring. Because if you get into something recurring, that's when you're going to start seeing, a year down the road, let's say you're getting paid every year for it, a year down the road when those renewals come in and then you're doing your next ones, you're suddenly almost doubling your income that month when those renewals come in. So, you know, if you can get into that, that would be great. That'll give you more money. You can bring someone else in and possibly start offering something else that's not part of your core, because you can bring in someone that already does it, like an iPhone repair person. You know what? I want to start getting into iPhone repairs. Let's bring in somebody who knows how to do that.
Right. That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah, recurring revenue is always going to be king type of revenue. That's going to be your best type of revenue because it's coming in on a regular basis, where your break fix, and I'll give this analogy again, your break fix is like being a car salesman. You have to sell so many cars during that month in order to make your, make your business and, make enough money to eat and, house yourself. Computer repair is the same way.
Yep.
Your break fix is going to be your onesie twosies. You might never see the customer again. You really got to, unless you create a real good rapport with them. But you might get into a place where you basically, you have to go outside of that, really. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You really have to go outside of just the normal break fix, because unless you just want to run around all the time and just fix things, and that's fine. There's business in that, but I think everybody gets to a point where they all of a sudden they don't want to necessarily be the guy running around anymore. They want to. Like for myself, I like hardware repair, but when I was younger, I also liked working on cars. To be honest with you, I don't even change my own oil anymore because it's so cheap to take it to the dealership and have them do it, and they rotate my tires and do a 60-point inspection and make sure that everything's operating correctly. It's just not worth it to me to sit there and wrench on my vehicle anymore. And I think a lot of people get into that where you love taking things apart or you love doing things, but you don't necessarily, even though you love to do it, you don't necessarily want to do it all the time. So if you have your remote support that you're doing, or your managed business services, those types of things, I think you'll see a bigger benefit. And again, a lot of us are one-man shows or one-woman shows, and be honest, you can only be in so many places at one time. So you really have to learn how to manage your time and manage what you do and how you do it, because Chris, how many machines can you work on at one time doing remote support?
Do you want an honest answer on that, or is it the answer?
Efficient. No, I want efficiently. Well, how many can you work on efficiently to where you feel comfortable?
It depends on what's being done on the computers, but I would have to say that if I had different issues on the computers, I can efficiently work on 3 computers at once.
Okay.
What more often will happen, though, is I'll have virus removals or tune-ups on a group of computers, and I can do up to 10.
Okay. Because you have a standard process that you do for each of those, so
that's right, and I keep track of each and every one of them on a separate check sheet, and there's a whole process behind it because I've managed that time, and that's where you need to look at the true costs of something versus the upfront cost. I'm even using your oil change analogy. I to be perfectly honest with you, couldn't even tell you how to change the oil on my new car. I have no idea, because for me, the mechanic up the street is going to charge me $40 to do it.
Right.
And I can walk back. Okay? So I drop my car off, I come back home, and I take care of 6 customers, and then I go pick up my car. The $40 that I'm spending to do that is not worth me not being able to deal with those customers because I'm rotating my own tires.
Exactly.
Right? It's the same thing with the managed service plan. A lot of my clients could do the managed service plan on their own, absolutely. But the amount of time that they would have to put into setting it up, monitoring it, making sure that everything's done properly is not going to be worth it when they could just make their money off of using us.
Right.
Right? I'm sure that you have customers who could have gotten rid of that virus on their own, but the amount of time that it would take them because they're not proficient at it is not worth it when they could just pay you however much you're going to charge them at the time for it.
No, I actually have no customers that could actually get the viruses off their
Okay,
computer.
well that's fair, but some of us out there, like I have the mechanic shop that I do work for them every once in a while, and I got a phone call from him a couple of days ago, and he said, "Hey Chris, this program popped up. It said it needed an update. Could you take care of that for me?" And I said, "Well, you need to remember that it's $89 for 1 hour minimum. Are you sure you want me to do that?" And he said, "Yeah, take care of it." The shop was overloaded. He needed the computer back, and he didn't have time to deal with it. It cost him less money to pay me the $89 plus tax to click a button, hit yes, and restart his computer for him than it would have been for him to do it because he would have missed an opportunity to sell to a client.
That's a good point. Marvin, anything to add to that?
Well, yeah.
Ask a silly question, get a silly answer. What can I say?
Well, I mean, just like Chris, I mean, I probably, like I said, a lot of my work is remote now, even though I've got, a bunch of business clients. But I can literally log into, an admin station on site and connect to several stations there and do a bunch of stuff. But I've done a lot of the same things where I've automated a lot of what I can do for them, between the updates, between the, the malware scans and all of that stuff. So, I probably work on average between 2 to 3 systems at a time, at any given point during a day. So in that sense, that's the efficiency factor there. And, I also have clients that it only takes one time for them to try to do it on their own and spend all day Friday and then the weekend, and for some reason they still can't get rid of that nagging message. For them to call and for me to look at it, takes me 15, 20 minutes, everything's clean, and they're like, you know what, from now on I'm just going to call you, you do it. And that's what it comes down to. But it, as Chris said, having those processes in place, whether it's a checklist or an automated system through, whatever program we use with the D7, the TechVaru, all of those tools, you've just got to really hunker down and get those processes, really streamlined so that you can do these things. And then you can hire the people to do the systems for you so that you're not actually the one doing them, every single time.
Yep.
But
that's a good point.
Yeah. I was going to say something about, we had talked about, Jeff, you mentioned that a lot of technicians are the one-man or one-woman shop. And I would probably guess that of the people that I have seen come and go, even the people that I've subcontracted, where I've got, clients with offices, on the other side of the state, and, I'm not going to drive, 5 hours, to work on a client system.
Right.
When I call somebody to go there, because if the machine can't get to the internet, I can't fix it remotely, but I need somebody to get there on site. I've probably gone through between 3 areas. I've probably gone through about 10 companies or 10 techs that I would call and subcontract out because of whatever reason that they never reached the level that we did. And they're chasing that break fix. And either they just never found a way to get that recurring referral or to get those customers that are going to call them every time. And, I know of 2 that have just, they packed up their shop and went to find, something else to do. A couple of them went to go find full-time tech jobs. But I think that another thing to talk about when we're looking at the future of break fix is not just finding, other sources of income or referral income or recurring income, is to look at, I would say, what is it that you love about this business that is going to keep you in this business? And, some of these techs I found out that they really didn't want to be techs. They really didn't want to, they just liked computers, liked
Right.
playing on computers, and thought that they can make enough money to keep doing that.
Right.
So if you're in the business to just, because you like computers and you want to play and you think you can make money at it, unless you find that right, hobby type job that pays a lot of money,
Right.
fixing computers isn't always about fun.
No.
No.
No, and fixing computers can't really be a hobby either.
Right.
Not if you want to make a living at it. Because I would have to say that anybody who is successful at all in this business has put a lot of hours into it.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, one of the things, if you want to find a love, you can. Yeah, I love money. So that's a good love to have. That's a good passion to have to move you forward. No, you guys are bringing up great points. And I think we're getting pretty close to the end here, but I think it's very important that you find what it is you like to do and do it, but also understand that you're going to get to a point, even if you still like to do it, that you want to get paid well, to do it and to put food in your belly and a roof over your head and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of times, even when we love to do things, and what you said, Marvin, earlier about the guy standing on the street corner. That sounds kind of bad. Standing on a street corner with a $49 sign.
Not bad, that's true.
I don't know what he's selling, but whatever. But anyways, he's not going to stay in business at that $49 level, because there's going to come a point where he goes, at first you're excited, you love it, and you go, I'm going to do this, and I love working on machines, and I love helping people, and it's true, and it should be that way. But at the same time, when you figure out how much time you put into something and the return on that time is not really paying the bills, you're going to find something else to do.
Oh, exactly. It's the same thing as that Groupon thing. Like Jeff, I think I had a conversation with you about this, but at one point I had done Groupon for virus removals in my city, and my virus removal rate, I think, was around 120 at the time. And the way Groupon works is you have to give at least a 50% discount, and then they take something like 50% of the sale. So you're getting 25% of whatever you're actually bringing in. And it's exciting because you get all these virus removals, and you wind up with all these payments coming in, and it's great. And the idea was supposed to be that now that I've gotten all of these clients in here, they're going to become clients, so I'll get more work out of them. And what actually winds up happening is you get all of these cheap customers that don't want to spend a lot of money to get their computers fixed, so you don't really make anything off of them. That $49 sign, you might get a lot of work out of it, absolutely. But at some point, you're going to need to raise that rate, and when you do, those clients that came to you because you had a $49 I will fix anything sign are not going to come back. And you are going to be left in the dust. Like we had an entire show on pricing and raising prices, and we had a whole discussion about that. And generally, yes, when you raise your prices and it's a reasonable rate increase, you are going to keep those clients. But if you're that $49 guy, a $10 increase is going to lose you those clients, because those aren't the type of clients that you want in the first place. Exactly.
I say thank God to that, because I've done exactly that. I moved from that $49 virus removal. I think it was $69 break fix or whatever. Now it's $89, or if it's done remotely, it's $129 for the same thing. But I've moved my prices up, and a lot of those customers have gone. But the ones that come in and they go, hey, I just need my computer fixed, they don't ask about price. They don't really. It doesn't really matter. They just they take it because they want that service and they're willing to pay for it. So, anyways, I think we've brought up a lot of good issues, and then definitely we'll keep continuing on with this, talking about different things on this show. A lot of good information. Sorry about the losing a connection, but at least I was able to pop back in, and it didn't cause too much of a havoc or anything like that. So, I'll tell you what, if you guys, why don't you guys go ahead and I appreciate you both coming on the show again. And of course, Chris, you're regular, but at least I hope you're regular. Anyways, why don't you guys go ahead and Marvin, why don't you tell people where they can find you at?
Well, you can find me. I've got my website, mbsystems.net. I'm in the all the chats and the Google stuff is MB Systems Inc. And my email, marvin@mbsystems.net.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Appreciate you coming out, and look forward to having you here in the future. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell people where people can, or tell people where they can find you at, and I'll learn how to talk.
Well, apparently they can find me in the fiber aisle. So my name's Chris. I own a remote support tech team. We provide white label IT services to computer companies. If you want to chat, look into services or anything like that, you can call me at 866-568-2813. You can also visit our website at www.rstechteam.com, or you can talk to me on Technable, which is Carcomp, CARRCOMP.
Very cool. And you guys, you can find me on the Google Plus at Jeffery Halash or Twitter at TechNutPC. You can also leave us a voicemail, please. We'd like voicemails at 1-888-697-0162. We would also like people to call in live on the show, so let your friends know. If you're a computer repair tech and would like to be a guest on Podnutz Daily, or if you want to leave some feedback, give us some information, things you guys would like to hear in the show, any of those types of things, please email me at podnutzdaily@podnuts.com. And if you're a company and you would like to feature your product or service on this show, please email me at podnuts@podnuts.com. You guys can help support the Podnutz Network. The next time you're shopping on Amazon, go to podnuts.com/Amazon. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Well, that's longer than I thought.
Jeff, don't laugh during the outro music. You ruined it.
It doesn't matter because I don't really use that for my recordings. But anyways,
Whatever.
More for effect. And it gives me a front end and back end to my recording. So very cool. Well, good show, guys. Yeah, look forward to definitely continuing on with some different topics and stuff like that. And looking for people in the chat room.
Yeah, seriously, guys. Stop chatting in chat. Call in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call in. Yeah, please. I was gonna say do we
even have a phone call today?
No.
Nope.
You know why? You know why? Because Corin won't pick up the phone. He's got all these comments that he's putting in the chat, but he won't pick up the phone.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. Well, and we had Chris received a phone call today, and somebody called in that's from my area, and so they wanted me to contact him, and his name's Delano, and so I called him back and everything. So he's working today, but I told him, I said, yeah, definitely join in the chat room, and definitely call in. So, but that's again, guys, we do this show so that you guys can hopefully learn something. We don't know everything, but we hopefully bring enough to the table that makes you think, and hopefully you can grow from that. And we definitely would like people to we do it so people can get involved. That's why the whole thing of taking live calls on the air, so that people can participate. And this is even a lot of techs that I wish that more techs would come on Podnutz Daily, to be honest with you, because I like to have diversity of people, just like I like to have diversity of business. It's nice to hear from different people on how they do different things. And we don't get me wrong, we're Podnutz Daily is doing fine. We're getting guests are calling in, emailing me, and we're getting them set up. And it's really easy to do. But if you're a computer repair tech and you like this show, and you haven't been on Podnutz Daily, or even if you have in the past, contact me, and we'll get you set up. So that's all I have to say about that.
Is that why you don't invite me on Podnutz Daily anymore, Jeff? I'm just tired of it.
I got to meet with you once a week. Isn't that enough?
I think it's too much. Isn't that too much?
It depends on where you're at. Depends on if you're on location or not. I don't know.
Hey, my wife was the best cameraman I think I've ever had.
Camera woman, but yes.
Let's not start getting PC. I'm Canadian.
Yes. Eh?
We
Hey,
we don't have rights up here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Rights.
Yeah. You don't need rights.
Hey, is it true that every guest gets to be on every show at least twice?
Yes. Pretty much.
So I got to catch up.
Yep. Yeah, at least twice. Yeah, you got to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been going really good. I mean, we've been rolling. Like I said, new people are contacting me, and this is one of the shows where we're even kind of filling it up with people. So, what are you writing in there?
Nothing. Stop looking in the chat.
Gotcha. I can type faster than I can talk. Yeah, okay. No, that's cool. We love the participation in the chat room too. Anything you guys have to, if you want to hear something talked about or you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat room. That gives us more content, and even though we come up with a theme for the show, we can still kind of move away from that theme and do whatever it is you guys want to hear about. If you want, I'm a pretty open book. I can show you the dumb prices I've charged. I'll show you the prices that I charged today. It doesn't matter to me. If it'll help you grow your business, that's what it's all about. So yeah. I'm more than willing to help that way.
And keep in mind, too, just for the people in the chat, we don't want anybody to think that we're ignoring them. There is a delay between the cast and when we've actually spoken.
Yes.
So, if you type something in the chat and it takes us 5 minutes to get back to it, it's not because we're not watching the chat. It's because you're not seeing us in real time.
Right. Yeah, there is a pretty significant delay. And, the other thing, too, is Chris is phenomenal at keeping an eye on the chat room. I've got a lot of different things going on, so I try to look at the chat room when I can. But, a lot of times I'm paying attention to other things, like, the phone that doesn't ring or whatever.
Right. Or the phone that does ring that isn't answered.
That I miss. Yeah. Well, I was trying to say it, in a way that didn't make me look so bad. But thanks for bringing that out. Appreciate that.
No problem. Hey, it's what I do. Oh, here you go. So Corin just said that he would love to schedule some time and that he writes insurance for computer techs. So that's something that he would love to talk about as well.
Oh,
awesome.
Mine just went up. I'd like to talk about that.
There you go.
Awesome. Yeah.
You were invited on the show to lower all of our insurance.
Yes.
There you go. I like that.
This is when he's going to say he doesn't do Canadians, and I'm going to be the shutout again.
Well, I don't know. I have nothing.
It's okay. I don't either. That's the problem.
Let's go back to what we were talking about before, and Windows Preview.
Before what?
So seriously, you think I should put a 250 gig drive in here, and you think I'll be able to?
We're coming back to that. Yes.
My OS and put all my programs. So how will it work with like Adobe? What's that?
You can do 128. All you're doing is for the SSD, it's just your OS.
Right, but the 250 Evo is actually a really good deal that he should take. It was like $129 for that.
Yeah, for that price, get that.
That's the same hard drive that I'm using, Jeff. You know how big of a gamer I am. Do you think that I would be using a solid-state hard drive for my operating system if it wasn't going to work well with the games and apps?
And it's not. So explain to me, how do you manage your different hard drives? You just point the user folder, or how do you point the different apps to, or the different programs to the spinning drive?
Well, for the most part, it's games that I'm worried about. I just install Steam on D, and then Steam takes it from there. The other thing that I did as well is I created a users folder in the D drive and pointed everything to that. So
I've done that before. I knew that was possible. My concern was just having any problems with games and stuff like that. If that's the way it works, I mean, I might give it a shot.
Well, nobody's gonna argue with you. Take a shot.
Yeah, really.
I'm sorry. I was distracted by the chat room.
Go to the store. What you're going to do right now is you are going to deal with the fact that you now need to use your cell phone and have someone hold it while you drive. Go to the store right now. We're going to watch you buy it, and we're going to stream it to everybody so that we can prove to everyone that you did it.
Yep.
There you go. Except Best Buy closes in like 25 minutes.
Better drive fast.
Oh.
He's considering it. Look at him.
Yeah.
It makes good television,
What are you waiting for? You're going to be redoing the drive.
Yeah, I know.
right?
You'll
It's
be-
not like you have to get rid of the new drive that you bought. Just use it as another one.
I don't need another drive.
It doesn't. It's not a need problem, Jeff. You have a
know.
desktop. You're supposed to overdo it.
I know.
But wait, here, Jeff, the time that it takes you to go get it and come back is the time you're going to save doing all that installation.
I
is
agree.
That is true. Windows operating system installs in a solid state is amazing.
It's we did my son's in less than 5 minutes. It was super quick.
All right. Hey, Chris, did we hit all the points that you wanted to in terms of this future of break fix?
I think we did. What do you think the conclusion is? Is what the real question is.
Well,
Because that's the debate. We all made great points about pretty much everything, but what was the conclusion?
I don't think we had a consensus.
I don't think we did either, which is great.
Except to diversify. We
Yes.
all agreed to diversify.
well, and I think we talked about too is finding your niche or partnering up with somebody, or I mean there's different ways to go about it, right? We don't have to put everything into one mold and make it fit. We can change that mold and let it fit us. But the point being that you just can't get stuck in doing what you've always done and thinking that you're going to make it, right? I mean, that's a conclusion I get from it, and that's, to be honest with you, that is the reason I'm still doing computer repair today, because I had this issue about a year ago, and I'm like going, is this even worth it? And I had to answer the question. I go, no, for what I was charging, absolutely wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a huge dilemma with a lot of technicians where they say I don't understand. I'm having all these computer repairs coming in, but I can't keep up with everything, and I'm not making enough money. And how do I fix that? And it's what do you mean you're too busy and you're not making enough money? What did you do wrong?
Yeah, that's a different problem.
Yeah.
That's
You should never be at a point where you're working so much that you can't work anymore and you can't afford to hire another technician. Your expenses are either too high or your income is too low.
Yeah, and that goes. Yeah, we've talked about that on other shows too.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
So yeah, you don't need everything today. And Marvin, we've even talked about. I think we talked about it on the networking show. You bought tools as you kind of needed them, and some you definitely did need because they definitely paid off for what you were doing at the time.
Absolutely, yes.
But you didn't say, well, yeah, the $1,000 tool is cool, but I really want the $10,000 tool. You didn't say that. Now you're able to upgrade. 10,000 is probably a little bit out there, but whatever. But you're able to upgrade to a better system. No, not it. No.
If you're working with servers,
I'm headed towards the $25,000 one. That's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. No, that's really cool.
It depends on the work that you're doing. With some types of IT related work, $25K is cheap.
Yeah, but I don't have those customers yet that I can recoup that pretty. I mean, I've got two customers that the tools that I have gotten made a huge difference and paid themselves off pretty decent.
Okay.
But I'm not quite ready yet to pull the trigger on that big boy.
I don't blame you. That's a big decision to make if you don't already have the client base asking for it.
Yeah. So even the last one I got. By the way, we're still live, right?
We're still streaming, but we're not recording.
Right.
Okay.
No, we're recording.
Oh, it's just not part of the show? What are you doing?
Well, no, I'm not reading.
The after party.
This is the after party, yeah, basically.
Don't freak me out like that, Jeff.
Party.
Well,
The music already happened.
Jazz hands.
Oh, God.
Oh gosh. Okay.
There's just Jeff. Now I'm going to ask this question, and I need an honest answer out of you.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
Is there a bucket of water over your head with a rope off screen? Because
No.
okay, we're okay then.
Why? Why is that?
Wow. No, I'm not going to bother. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I was confused because I was checking to see what time Best Buy actually closed, and it's actually 8 o'clock. So
And it's 8 o'clock. Well, then what are you doing here?
I don't know.
Let's get you on your cell phone. We'll talk you through this whole thing. It's okay. It'll be intervention part 3.
Yeah, we'll even guide you through the tech talk with the little kid sales guy.
Oh. Oh yeah, that's always fun, isn't it?
And you just hold your phone up, and I'm just going to be there saying, "He just wants the Evo. Give him the Evo."
Give me the Evo. Need help? No, I don't need help. If I wanted help, I would ask for help.
The help that I need is I need you to go get your keys and unlock this box so I can get this hard drive. Anything else that you say is just going to delay me.
Actually, I swore after today I was not going back to Best Buy.
Okay, look.
I said that about Tiger Direct.
Yeah.
Well, no, the reason okay, full disclosure, I have a there's a local computer shop here that has parts because I don't store parts. So I needed at least a 500 gig or a 500 watt power supply. And I didn't know because I don't go there all the time. But when I need, I call the customer. I go, hey, here's what it's going to cost if I go run out and get it. Here's what it's going to cost if I order it. Well, how long does it take to order it? Well, I get shipping in a couple days, whatever. I'll just get it so I can get my computer back. Okay, great. So I do that, and I don't know if this computer shop actually has name brand power supplies. So I knew Best Buy did. Well, of course, the one that I wanted, I was an idiot. I didn't check to make sure that it was actually in the store, and it wasn't. So I had to buy a bigger power supply, which the customer's still going to benefit from it. It's got a 5-year warranty on it, whatever. It wasn't that much more expensive, but I had to drive a lot farther, which that irritates me. So the local computer shop is actually fairly close. So for things like that, when I need a hard drive fast, I go there because they're very similar to what you would buy on Newegg or whatever. So, anyways.
Well, look, okay, I don't know what Best Buy's like down there, but there's
Do you
a
have Best Buys?
It's America.
We have Best Buys. So
well, the difference is they say things like process. That's probably the only difference.
Okay. So
anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
No, you told my story. No, so basically, here's what this comes down to, is when we were looking at getting my wife her laptop, I already had the Lenovo Yoga 2, and she wanted the Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro, and I said that's fine. So we looked around, and Best Buy had a good sale on.
Okay.
I said, okay, well, honestly, that's the cheapest place that we're going to be able to get it to, and let's, we're already out of town, let's go. So we went into the Best Buy, and we went into the computer sales area, which, in my opinion, should be the most heavily staffed because you're going to move a lot more product out of there if you can get one-on-ones with these customers. That's what they're there for. On top of that, we already knew exactly what we were walking in there for, so that would have been a nice commission check for somebody who literally just had to ring through a sale. And after 20 minutes, we decided to go looking for somebody. Everybody was busy with another customer. Then people would move on to other customers instead of us, and we finally got the floor supervisor to go check, and they were out of stock. So we were there for an hour and didn't walk out with our computer. That's happened on 2 separate occasions in 2 different departments at the same Best Buy, and we only have one in town. So we don't go to Best Buy anymore. We'll wait for Newegg to have a sale, which happened the next day, actually.
Were you not able to check on the web and use the...
No, web said that they had one, and they do. It's the display model.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, that would stink.
Yeah, but they don't sell the display model, nor would I want it.
Right.
But yeah, so you know what? I'll wait for Newegg to come out with a sale, because to be perfectly honest with you, the next day Newegg came out with their sales, and it was cheaper.
Nice.
So Jeff, you don't stock any product?
Not generally, because I used to, and then I ended up winding up with the wrong type of product. So that's kind of where I'm at. I used to keep, like a handful, like I actually had brand new power supplies, but they're a few years old, and they're only 20-pin connectors, and
right.
They don't have the 24-pin connector, and they're not. I actually had a power supply that would have worked fine, but I was not comfortable with giving that off-brand to a customer. I wanted to buy them something that was going to be a little more robust in their Dell XPS system.
Right.
So, and I look at that stuff as I'm just trying to protect the customer from having another failure. So get them something with a little more quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. When it comes to a power supply, that's, the people who they come and want hardware repairs, or they want a computer built, that's one of the 3 parts that I'll tell them: do not cheap out on your power supply.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I just did a video card. I'm not thinking somebody had bought an Asus system for playing Sims, right? Which is not that robust of a game, but the code pretty much sucks, so the game runs like garbage most of the time. But anyways, so they bought this nice system. Well, I'm looking at I upgraded their video card because Best Buy had sold them this 550 Ti whatever, and I'm like going, I would have never sold you that card. I said for a few dollars more, you could have got something that was middle of the road instead of bottom of the road, bottom of the road. And they were the problem they were having was it was a power supply shortage, even with that cruddy video card. So when I upgraded the video card, I forgot to look at the wattage on that power supply that came with it, and I'm like, oh. So anyways, made them run to Best Buy, go grab a power supply, put it in for them, and they got it back. So, but that's just one of the things you do. I used to keep, sometimes I probably should have a couple hard drives on hand, laptop, desktop. I had played around with the idea, most of the time in a laptop, a 500 gig hard drive is perfectly fine. If they've got a 320 or a 500 or whatever, a lot of unless you're buying really expensive systems, they're not normally 750 and higher. And I get a pretty, the deal on a 750 is pretty decent for a Western Digital Black. I think I can get those for like a laptop hard drive for $79. And it moves from their whatever they had in there from a 5400 RPM to a 7200 RPM.
Right.
Nicer drive.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's really weird because when I bought my hard drive, it didn't tell me how many RPM. Oh, wait.
Say it.
Whatever. Okay.
You're still here.
I know I'm still here.
Yeah.
All right, what time is it? Oh, it's like 5:49. All right, well, guys, I think we're going to officially end this show. We've had a lot of fun, and guys, keep coming back. Bring your questions, bring your answers, call in, be in the chat room, and hang out with us, and we'll have another fun time discussing something else that has to do with computer repair. All right, guys, have a good one.